Hello everybody, this is a Lamley showcase, one that I think is going to be very fun to do, at least for me, because anytime I can pull out the Hot Wheels Skylines, I am happy. I'm a big fan of the Skylines, that's no surprise. It doesn't make me unique by any means because the Skylines are very, very popular, hence this showcase. Because Hot Wheels has dedicated themselves to putting out some awesome Skyline castings. And to think just a few years ago, there was one and people didn't even know what the Skyline was. A lot of people, at least here in the United States. So it was a good introduction. And now fast forward to 2019 and with the release of the R32, there are now, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Skyline castings. Now, there's several tools because there's been some modifications, but in terms of general castings, 9 Skylines produced by Hot Wheels, and I have all 9 here. Not every release of said castings, but I have the 9 castings here, and I thought it'd be fun to walk through those and give you an update of what to look for. You might have this Fast and Furious R32, or you might have bought one of the other basics that have been out real soon, and you're like, I want to know all the other Skylines. Well, let's walk through them. I'm going to show you the castings, and then it's up to you to go and find all the versions if you want them. Now, I can walk through all of these castings, do up-to-date videos, maybe on the Lamley Extras channel later. And if you want me to, let me know, and I'll walk through all these. The only casting that I don't have all the versions of is the first R32. I've said I'm not a huge fan of the casting. We'll get to that in a little bit. And there's quite a few out there that I just haven't been that interested in pursuing. But all the rest of these, I have every release. Not here. That's not the point of this video, but later on. All right, we've talked enough. Let's get right to it. I don't have these in order of release. I have these in order of the actual cars, like when they were the actual cars were released. So that means you start with the Nissan Skyline C10. This is the Hakosuka Skyline. Now look, the Skyline in Japan is maybe what the Camaro or Corvette would be to the United States, if you already haven't figured that out. So this was actually the second casting released by Hot Wheels. The first was at R32. We'll get to that later. But this is what started what I think was the big JDM age. I know the 510 was out, but when Hot Wheels and Junimai started designing Skylines, now we were really getting into it because they were Japan-only cars, right? So this first version was released in the basic range. It's not entirely licensed, but it's based on the original C10 racing deco in green, and we have a second color and a third. We'll get to that in a second. That was a basic version. There's several other basic versions that have been released and a couple of premium versions, well, more than a couple. This was from Boulevard in gray. It's one that I really like because it's nice and plain. This is not stock. This is more of a racing version because it has the exposed oil cooler on the front, some other modifications. But that one was done in kind of a plain version from Boulevard, and then there was this second racing color, number 16, for the first Japan Historics, right? The first release of car culture. So these Hakosuka racing cars, they were done, I think, in green, blue, and red. And if you saw the calendar feature I did the other day, the red version is coming. As part of the JDM Legends Team Transport set that they're doing. So we will have 3 colors. Obviously, when I get that, I will feature them. That is the C10 casting. There's another C10, one that I've professed to be my favorite Skyline casting. It is the C10 van or C10 wagon. Call it what you want. It is more stock. I mean, it's obviously not stock. It's lowered and everything else, but more in the stock style of the C10 van. 2 releases, no basic version. Don't know if we'll get a basic version. That first version in that aqua green color, and then of course this Advan version from Team Transport. We get a third coming in pop culture, so it's moving over to pop culture here soon. C10. Is that the first Skyline ever? Well, you got the Prince Skyline, so you've got other generations before that, but that's what Hot Wheels has done. Very appropriate. And now it looks like they're trying to fill in all of the gaps because C10 moves to C110. Same year that the C10 was released in the Hot Wheels basic range, so was the C110. If I remember correctly, this might have been a replacement for something that was canceled, and June said, I know what I can fill it with. And he designed this C10 Ken Mary GTR. Love it in the plain white, pearl white color with the gold rims. That was basic. We've seen several basic, including a Super Treasure Hunt last year. Then I got a couple of premium versions I'm going to show you. This is from is it the Flying Customs, or I can't remember which line. Has the metal base, but the classic basic wheels. Now look at the interior on this one. You'll see this one has 2 seats, and that's what's so unique about this casting. 2 seats like all of the other Ken Mary Skylines Hot Wheels has done, but if you're lucky, you found this one with a completely different interior. If you look at it closely, you'll notice it has a racing bucket seat, and that's it, a single seat. So it's the 1-seat variation. I don't know which was more common, but it does seem like the 1 seat was less common than the 2 seat. The story that from what I understand, is the Ken Mary was supposed to be part of a Hot Wheels racing series, and they were going to do a Japanese segment, but the series was canceled before they could get to it. But they'd already designed the interior for the racing car, so they actually mixed it into that Flying Customs. We haven't seen it since. Hope we do one day. It'd be cool. But that's the story. And then this is the last premium, also from the first Japan Historics, the police car, which I think is cool. Could have used a little more deco on the sides and the front, rear, and everything, but really pretty car as well. So that is the Ken Mary casting. That's just a few examples of it. Then what has only been out, a year, but already somewhat underrated, the C210. Only one release of this one, but it is beautiful. I love the purple color, but just look at the casting. Also lowered a little bit, sits on the very small 4-spoke rims, but look at the steering wheel in chrome. Front grille and rear taillights are so pretty. I just think this is one of the underrated Skyline castings that hopefully you guys have an example of it, because I don't know when it's coming again. I have heard of no plans of it coming. Hopefully there's something in the works to see it again. So classic Skyline. So we go C10, C110, C210. Then we move into kind of what are considered the more modern Skylines from the 80s into the 90s, starting with the R30. No premium version of this one. This has only been out a year, right? We've seen a version already in 2019. I like the 2 versions from 2018. This stock version in red, the red panda look. Our friend Jay Coe has one of these. It's been featured on Petrolicious and elsewhere. Beautiful, beautiful car. All Japanese, right? And then back to the classic, the R32, the first R32 released. When was it? Like 2003, maybe? 2002? So many versions of this one. I think this one was like when the Skyline was first released. Hot Wheels did it, and I think there was a lot of people going, I don't know. Now, I have said they needed to do a more stock version of the Skyline. They didn't do it because I said it, because a lot of us have said it. And since the Skylines have become far more popular in the real car culture world, and then of course in the Hot Wheels world, it made sense that we saw more. Now here's the Super Treasure Hunt, which I think is pretty cool. All kind of a racing version. Obviously, it has this racing kit added to it. That's how this one was done. Real popular back from in the time that the Skyline was designed, I think by Phil Reelman, and then released. And I said they need a stock R32, which we finally have. And boy, is it most welcome. But I've kind of said, and I'm going to pull back a little bit. I've kind of said I really hate the R32, the first R32 casting, and really needed a stock version. Well, now we have the stock version, and it is absolutely gorgeous. There's the first basic release, and then of course the premium Fast and Furious release, which is my favorite release of 2019 so far. Just in jet black, just beautiful with those TE37 or the 6-spoke rims. I think it looks awesome. But you know what? Now that we have the stock version, you put them together, and I'll put the 2 basic versions together, and you can see that the size, I don't know if it was deliberate to make the size from the first R32 similar on the second R32, but now we have 2, and they look great together. You have the stock version with a proper stance, and then you have this racing version that seems a little more retro now with its racing kit. And I think they look great together. So it brings a newfound appreciation for that R32, which I had professed my hatred for. See, never make bold statements like that. You're going to change your opinion eventually. For better or for worse, you're going to change it. And I'm glad I have. So nice to have those R32s. I might have to fill a couple of gaps in here and there on that R32 to have both castings. All right, moving on. R33, also released last year. Love this one. Love the stance. It is the GTR, right? It is the GTR version. So perfect stance. Perfect, just sleek style. R33 was kind of underrated in the car world, but I think the world is figuring out how pretty that one is. And then, of course, the second Skyline that was ever released, also designed by Phil Reelman, is the R34. And boy, this one has had a strong life. I would say that this one is up there now with like the Datsun wagon, and the 55 Gasser is just one of those heavyweight, big hitter type castings. It was kind of a peg warmer at first, like a lot of these Japanese cars were back in the day. This was released in, I think, in 2010. So gray and blue, that's the basic version. Then I brought out a couple of premium from Fast and Furious in blue, which I think is beautiful and clean. And then obviously the second Fast and Furious, fourth time we've seen this design, but first time premium in the premium series. I love that the Fast and Furious premium is going to introduce us to so many cool cars, and we'll see that develop over the years. So there you are, 9 castings: C10, C10 van, C110, C210, R30, R32 Racing, R32 Stock, R33 GTR, and the R34 GTR. Wow, it's a lot of Skylines. I don't know if Hot Wheels has any more Skylines in the works. I'm not complaining if they do. A couple gaps they could R30 or the R31, right? Anything else they want to do. They only want to go back to the Prince era. By all means, do it. I'm all game for it. So, lots of Skylines. Collect them all if you want to. I think it's worth it, no matter what kind of car fan you are. Thanks, everybody. Bye.